Welcome to the Big Fat Real Estate Checks podcast with Marco Kozlowski, where we help investors like you get the knowledge and skills you need to replace your JOB with passive cash flow for life.
Hey, Marco here. I really wanted to share with you our earlier podcasts that we created. Now, our mics were not the best, but the content was really strong, and I know you will learn a lot. We had an absolute blast recording this, and I know you're absolutely going to love it as much as we loved recording it. This extremely content-rich information will not only give you the edge in your real estate investing business, but in everyday life. Enjoy.
Morning, good afternoon, good day, and good evening, depending on what time you are listening and or watching this. Today, we're going to be discussing excuses or results. You can't have both. So we're going to discuss times in our lives or tricks or tips on how to avoid procrastination and avoid making excuses for whatever you want to accomplish and focus on the prize, which is results, because you cannot have excuses and results in the same sort of space. Well, you could, just it's better to have results than excuses. So let's get going. Where do we start?
Well, I can use when I actually it's not when I just started in real estate. It's throughout my life. I think it's just easy to make excuses and blame others. That was my thing. I was terrible at it. Only because you think it's someone else's fault. It's just easier blaming someone else.
It is. And
when shit goes wrong or things don't happen, you point the finger. You look at one thing that someone maybe didn't do, but you point the finger and say, "Oh, it's all because of you," and it's not true. I realize that now. I think it was over the last maybe 5 years that I started changing the way I think. In terms of when shit goes wrong, you're the only one to blame. Listen, you're here or wherever you are in your life today. You're here for the basically the decisions you made throughout your life. That's your journey. Whatever decisions you made, that's what made you what you are today. And if you're not happy with what you are today and what you do today, you're at fault. And that's what it is. And I had to realize that, I heard other influential people speaking, and even from you, Marco, is you dictate basically your future. You dictate your future. And you have people that help you along the way. But if those people are not doing things that you want them to do or perform or picking up, you can't blame. Like I can't blame Gabe. Like recently, I had a rehab of a motel.
Oh,
and
not alcohol. All right. But it's like I was in rehab of a hotel. Okay, well, that's a cool. That sentence just completely took a U-turn, which is good.
But on that, we hired a general contractor. Yeah. And the general contractor said that it's going to take X amount of months to get it repaired or whatever. I didn't show up or wasn't accountable for that general contractor, and I knew he was slow. And then I found out that he did next to nothing, and I kept blaming him. And then I kept blaming him even after the 6 months, to the point where it was 18 months later. Could I have done something back then? And this is just recent. So that was one of my mistakes where I didn't, that was an excuse. It was the GC that fucking put me back. It was the GC. Yeah. Well, maybe it should have been me that says, put my foot down and say what needs to be done for this GC to move his ass or get rid of him and find someone else as a replacement. And it's just easier to blame people. That's all.
It's very hard to take responsibility and hold yourself accountable when you're not where you want to be. It's so much easier to blame others, except the only person that is responsible for our own future is ourselves. Not the person that you've married or divorced or want to marry or might future divorce. It's us. And whenever you point a finger, there are three that point back. You have to remember that. So taking responsibility is a big deal. And sometimes it's quite painful. And it's so much easier to say, wasn't my fault. But okay, so what are you going to do about it? How can you change where you are now? If you don't like the number of zeros that you see in your bank account, if you are not having the cash necessary, it's part of a behavior issue. I still suffer from that. I'm a person that likes to help everybody, and I'm always doing that. And at the cost of my own of myself. These guys know this. You know, I have some projects that are going sideways, and I'm in the process of fixing it with other partners, but I take it upon myself to fix it and not communicate to the other partners that I need their help as well. So I'm also quite guilty of not always, communicating well to my team or partners to get things done. I recognize that, and it's definitely something that I'm working on, and definitely something that I think everyone has a responsibility to be the best version of themselves so they can be the best human for the people around them. And on a daily basis, I strive to be the best that I can. And I'm still struggling. There's still issues in my life that no matter how well I do financially, I still have some work to do with myself, always. And it starts with me. And if there's a lot of things that are happening on the outside, it's my responsibility to not let it rain on the inside. So if someone, for example, slaps you or slaps me, I choose how I react, right? Could I slap them back?
Yeah.
Could I give them a hug? Could I ask them why they slapped me? Could I cry? Could I run away? Could I, whip out a gun and shoot them? These are all things that I choose to do based on someone else's reaction, but it's my choice on how I react. So I can blame someone for doing something to me, but ultimately I'm the one that reacted in that way. So everything that you do is a choice that you make. And I believe that if you work on recognizing how you're reacting to things, I think it'll make a big difference in how you operate in your life. Are you a complainer? Are you constantly complaining about the same thing and not doing anything about it? I don't know if you ever had this, but this drives me bananas when I'm talking to someone and they're complaining about, for example, someone at work, right? I don't have those kind of people around me anymore, but my answer is like, well, why don't you go talk to them? Why are you talking to me? And no, I haven't talked to them about it. But you've talked to me about this same situation for months. Why are you not talking to them? There's nothing I can do, so go. I love you, but I don't want to hear this anymore. Go talk to them.
But it's a root problem, right? At the end of the day, we're designed this way where we want to protect ourselves first. And we don't, we feel so good about ourselves that we can't be the guilty party. I think that if you see yourself in this, you're hearing these stories. I have my own where, I was that person too. I was always pointing fingers. I was always, it can't be my fault. Up to maybe 5-6 years ago, I made so many mistakes. My real estate journey started way before I met Marco, way before I met Frank, and it started in a terrible way. I actually probably did real estate the wrongest of ways, and I messed up big time. I got in the hole, couple of $100,000. That's in equity, so in negative equity. That makes any sense. Plus negative cash flow of ridiculous amounts every month to the point where my wife and I were both working to pay off just the negative cash flow, let alone the bills and the expenses of keeping a household open. It wasn't easy. And, I never thought that it was because I made a mistake. I was looking back at why I made these investments, and I was blaming the promoter of the project. I was blaming, everybody around me. And did they have some fault or some negative play into this? Yeah, probably they did. In fact, I know they did. But at the end of the day, I had to, coming back to what you said, Marco, is that we make our decisions. And I decided to go ahead and, sign on the dotted line and pick up these properties without necessarily doing the right homework because I didn't know any better. So that's why I was blaming everyone else. But at the end of the day, I've been in really dark places after these investments. You think of yourself, I had a family, 2 children. You think of the fact that you have life insurance and you're like, well, I can probably get everybody out of this mess with one change of mind or one split second. And I've thought of it, probably on more than one occasion at that time. And it's just one day, and luckily for me, I guess to a certain extent, I was literally in front of the mirror and I realized that that's exactly where the blame was supposed to go. And from that day on, I decided to change the way I looked at my problems. And that, okay, well, you know what? You're alone here in front of this mirror and nobody else is going to help you get out of this because so far nobody has. I've talked about the problem. I've discussed it with a million people and nobody gave a shit. Not one person gave a flying fuck That's where it came down to. And that's when I realized that I'm the only one who's going to get myself out of this mess, or I'm going to die. One of the two. And I just decided to change the way I did things. And here I am. And I'm so thankful and grateful to have learned the right way, to have met, guys like Marco, Frank, and I've also changed my entourage a little bit so that I can be surrounded with positivity. We've talked about that in another episode where you have to kind of clean up the energy around you, and it's so refreshing. It's refreshing, and I mean, I'm so grateful for that today because I've been able to accomplish things that I never thought I could in the past, and it all comes down to the way you look at yourself and the way you treat your problems. And yeah, making excuses or getting results are, that you can have both. And I'm kind of the proof of that, at least in my life.
That's well, thanks for sharing.
Yes.
That's you got to be in a really dark place to start having those type of thoughts. And I can't imagine because I never had those thoughts.
And it's okay. You don't have to have them, and you don't have to get to that point. But and we each have, I guess, our boiling point internally. Mine got there, but it was my fault because I let it get there. Right at the end of the day, and that's sort of the message I want to pass, that you don't necessarily have to get there, but you have to start looking in the mirror to make a decision.
But had you not gotten to that point, would you not have? Wasn't that the tipping point though for you?
For me, it was.
Yes. So you got to such a dark place, and then you were having these thoughts, of no longer being on the planet and taking care of your family with a life insurance policy, which I understand. But had you not have been at that tipping point, would you be where you are today?
Probably not. Hard to say because
right? You know what I mean?
Like I said before, your decision, no, he wouldn't have been, because remember what I said before. Your decisions you made throughout your life, you're at the spot where you should be based on your past decisions. Yes. So his decisions and his thoughts was like, okay, I fucked up in real estate. I was losing money. I have a family. He got married. All this pressure. No one gives a shit.
Yes, no one cares. It's easier if I'm just not here anymore.
So,
and then he looks in the mirror and then he goes.
But it's not easier for me. It's easier for those around me. Like for me, the reason I got there was, I looked at my wife that had to work hard and struggle for this. I looked at my children who deserved a much better life than I was providing for them. I also grew up in an environment where, my mom was a stay-at-home. My dad was always, fending for the family, and at least financially. And to me, that was what I was supposed to do. Like, it wasn't up to anyone else but myself to take care of my family, and I couldn't do it. So the only way I could think of doing it, or at least the thought process was that at least if I did this, then I would have sort of accomplished my life's mission of taking care of my family. Now, obviously, I know better now, but yeah, maybe you did have to get there in my case, but doesn't mean that rock bottom for everyone is that. And I certainly hope
not. I'm not suggesting that at all.
That's right.
I'm just all I'm trying to shed some light on is sometimes we have to recognize where we are and have that aha moment of, this is terrible. I had that a few times in my life. I've had a few circumstances where I was completely broke when I first started my journey as a musician going into real estate. In 2008 to 2012, I was homeless in 2009. I was homeless. I had to rebuild completely from scratch, living out of a car. And, from making millions of dollars a month to living in a car having no money, through a extremely painful divorce. But had I not gone through that, I'm actually grateful now that I've gone through that. I don't have any anger or animosity or blame, or that my spouse disappeared with all the money and left me homeless and left me with all the problems. Did I have suicidal thoughts? Yeah. In fact, I turned to drugs and alcohol in a really severe way, and it was a slow, painful death of self-pity and loathing. And it was excuse. She took it all, and everyone's a bad person, and I became very angry, and it was terrible. And it wasn't actually until I met a homeless man, and it's the story of the Red Sox, which we're not going to get into today, but I only wear Red Sox because of that homeless man, that I started developing gratitude, taking responsibility, and realizing that I am the only one that can get me out of this for my kids and my family and the ones I love. And since having zero, being homeless, rebuilt thousands of units across the country, have developed some incredible relationships, being able to take care of my family, being able to take care of my parents, which is not something that I ever thought I could ever do. I've successfully retired my parents because they've been working for a very long time, and they still work because they think they have to, but they don't. So I'm very blessed, and it's not until I hit rock bottom that actually happened. Same thing. There's definitely a tipping point with when you worked at the government where you're like, fuck this, man, I'm out. Like,
Yeah.
you kind of have to get to that point, because if there's not enough pain, I believe, we're driven by pain and pleasure, right? So if there's not enough pain, then we're generally not going to be motivated enough to get into the next cycle of our life. And whenever you're in pain, I believe you're most receptive to the solution.
And you nailed it when you said, when you talk to people didn't give a shit. And that's the point where they didn't give a shit. If something's wrong in your life, and I learned by this, if I don't, like I used to hate when people came with excuses, because I did the same thing without a solution. So yeah, shit's gonna happen, but what's the solution to it? And if you do nothing because you're waiting for other people, I was blaming the GC, you were blaming whoever, and you were waiting for them to change, then shame on you for not changing yourself, because you're the only one that's gonna care about you. And you gotta change so you can change your life better for the better, so you can take care of your kids, take care of your wife, and no one's gonna sit around. So if you keep pointing the fingers, again, you hear it often. The more excuses you have, the less successful you're gonna be. Because people just want to sit there and feel that pittiness.
And this comes back.
It's his fault. It's Marco's fault. It's this one's fault. It's that one's fault. The sky's blue. It's God's fault.
But it comes back to, and we've mentioned this, I think, in a prior podcast. You got to take care of yourself first to be able to take care of others. Right. And we're prime example. Like, had I not, taking care of myself and finding myself and making sure I made the changes, I couldn't be here today trying to help you. And helping all these other people in our entourage that want to do real estate, or even in their lives in general. I try and help as many people as I can, because I can and I want to, and it's fun, and it's fun to see a change. And I don't want to see anyone go through what I went. And if it sometimes, like I said, it comes from your upbringing a bit. And if you grow up in a negative environment, and negative environment doesn't mean negative in that you have shitty parents or you have shitty friends. It just means the way they speak. They have the broke language and the broke mindset. And a lot of us, I guess 95% maybe of the population kind of grows up this way, and it's up to you to get yourself out of that mindset. And if I can help as many people as possible get out of that mindset just by talking about my story and what kind of triggered it for me, then great. If I can change sort of one person's mindset at a time, that's all I'm looking for.
I still blame the government for employing me. It's fucked up thinking, but it is. I blame.
Yeah, we don't understand it either.
We don't get it either.
Well, I'm telling you,
I blame the government too.
It's
all the government's
It's all the government's fault. But
goddamn government.
We just don't know which government to blame.
Because I felt that I lost close to quarter of a century. Like, I always had that entrepreneur in me that I wanted to do, and I always had the side hustles. So whether when I was a kid, I was doing landscaping and I was doing interlock ceiling. But I blamed the government. I go, fuck, man, 24 years with the government. You made it
too comfortable for him.
I mean, it's no, it's not even that. It's not where I wanted to be after 25 years, and I blamed the government. I like, man, what if I didn't take that path? What if I had to even lie to get the job? But that's another story. But I got the job. And I thought, okay, well, this is great. But as maybe the last 8-9 years, I think I overstayed my welcome there, because I was miserable and making excuses, but I didn't do anything about it up until 5 years ago. But I overstayed my welcome by 8 years. It's horrible. That's another 8 years on top of the 23 that I stayed, or the 24 that I was there. So making those excuses and waiting for others to change, like. The government was going to come here, Frank. You know what? We're going to triple your salary because you were here for this long. No, it's not going. It didn't work that way.
But you can easily triple your salary in real estate just by 3 more properties.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's what do you want in life?
How much you want to make, then just buy that many doors.
And do it. That's another thing. That's another topic of taking action. Because everybody wants to triple everything or quadruple everything, but you got to do it. But it starts with changing yourself. And
it does.
Once you decide that you're the only one responsible for whatever's going to happen next, it gets a lot easier to do things.
It does. So stop, look in the mirror. If you're not happy with what you look like, you can't change your face, but you certainly can change your weight if you choose to.
Yeah.
Right? Move less, eat more. Right? Isn't that the secret?
Depends what you eat more.
Well, round is a shape, right?
Yeah,
Isn't round a shape? Yeah. If you want to be in shape and be round, that's fine.
That's fine.
You know, love you for who you are, for sure. But you can get in better shape. You can both physically, emotionally. You can get in better financial shape, for sure. And that only takes 15, 20 minutes a day. These are all things that you really should be working on a daily basis.
There's exercises for that.
And be focused.
If every time you try and catch yourself, I think the first significant move would be to catch yourself blaming something or someone else, because you'll see that. I remember when I was trying to make this exercise, I found out that I was doing it a lot, and you only find that out once you sort of catch yourself. And even if you do it, that's fine, but catching yourself is actually a really big step in the process, because that's when you realize that you actually do it, and then you can decide, okay, well, hold on, I said this, let me go in the mirror and say it to that person, and then just keep saying it to that person every single time. Eventually you'll catch yourself not doing that anymore, and you'll think twice before blaming someone else, and you'll find the real person to blame, which, like I said, that person's always in the mirror.
But what you do with that afterwards, like changing, so you're looking at yourself in the mirror, okay, yeah, someone may have done something wrong, and people do something wrong. But for it to continue to happen and use that as an excuse to continue to happen, and then say, I'm here because of that person, or because of these people. They fucked up my whole life. Well, no.
Well, it's what can I change?
It's
that would make
exactly.
this
So
better.
when you realize that someone did do something and you're blaming them, and you catch yourself in that act, and you're like, what am I going to do? That's what the mentality is. What am I going to do different now so it doesn't happen again, number one?
Or someone did something bad to you, and maybe someone held you up at gunpoint and stole all your money. All right. Does it mean that your life is over? That now it's time to just check out and be a victim, or do you use that to catapult yourself into more success? That's a choice that you make on a daily basis. Some really screwed up shit happened to me when I was a kid. Doesn't mean that I use that as an excuse to not be successful in my life.
That's right.
How do I, that those people did bad things to me doesn't mean that now I have to, I'm aware of what happened, but I'm not going to use that as an excuse in order not to do anything with my life. My mission is to help as many humans as possible, as it is yours. I'm really in the helping people business, whether it be investors to make better return on their money, sellers get rid of their property quickly, you as a listener to be able to learn how to do this so you can have an independently financial life. I want 1 million people at my funeral. You're all invited. I want you all to be there. I want to impact as many humans as possible before my demise, before I go on to the next opportunity. So, but that's the mission that I've chosen based on all my experiences that have happened. I choose action and success versus excuses and reasons why I'm not going to be successful.
And it's just important to, not everything is going to be your fault. That's not what we're trying to say here. Is like when Marco says it's always my fault.
Always your fault.
But if you're just randomly standing in the street and somebody comes and punches you in the face, then obviously you're not to blame for that. And what we're trying to say is that don't use the fact that you got punched in the face by someone else as an excuse for you not being able to go out and do something with your life or do something that's going to benefit you and your family. That's sort of the message here. In my case, I know that I had an impact to why I ended up in a dark place. It was partly my fault. It wasn't totally my fault, but I was using everyone else as an excuse to why I wasn't successful instead of actually taking the reins of the horse and directing it towards success.
I think though, a lot of people think that life is not fair, life is hard, and yeah, it is. Life is actually fair by being unfair to everyone. That's just the reality, and it's how we handle ourselves on a daily basis that really makes a difference and impact within ourselves and our family. Like if you're working 3 jobs to make ends meet, I get it. You have to hustle. Then find 15 minutes, learn a new skill so you can solve new problems that make you more money so you can get rid of one job. Because we have a follower, Christiana, who I'm a mentor. She works 3 jobs to be able to do this, to pay her bills. 3 jobs. And she's a hard fucking worker. She works so hard. And her time is really very limited. But she gets properties under contract, and she's going through the process in only 15 minutes a day. And once her first deal closes, she can get rid of 2 jobs. 2, which now frees up more time to be able to do more things.
Yeah.
That
More 15 minutes a day.
one deal in the 15 minutes a day she's taking, and she's got properties under contract right now, so she's close. And she's excited because that 15 minutes has made a huge difference. It allows her to free up 2 jobs. So now she is able to have way more time and then can focus on getting rid of her first job.
Like interest, those 15 minutes compound, right? And it's the
Exactly.
same thing. If you don't start doing something now, all the time you're losing actually gets compounded as well with time you're doing nothing with. And you have a lot less ahead of you than you have behind you for the most part. But, and maybe in your case, if you're 20, you got way more time ahead of you.
We hope.
We hope. Yeah,
We hope.
that's right. 'Cause
Yeah.
you never know. But
You
in
never know.
theory,
Yes.
you have more. So you have a lot more compounding time. I mean, you can reach massive success just by doing 15 minutes a day.
Big change.
Yeah, and going just to bounce on that thought, whatever. Yeah, when you lose that compounded time, then people feel that now they're in a race, they lost all that time, and they keep looking in the rearview mirror and not moving forward because they're dwelling on, holy shit, look at all the time that I wasted in the past. Well, I'm
That's another excuse.
listen, I was in the same boat with the government. Like, oh my goodness, I just wasted like 25 years of my life.
You're doing it
And
today.
I'm doing it today. It's fucking horrible. I thought I was over this.
You're doing it today.
This episode by learning back.
25 years.
Dang, government, why'd you hire me? But listen, it's human nature to even think those thoughts. It's what you do next that's more impactful and more important. What you do next, and the next thing you do is just move forward and don't do that again. Stop blaming others.
That applies
And-
even to success. Even if you do something successful yesterday, it's what you do next that actually matters. It's not what you did yesterday.
We're all in the movie business. You're only one bad movie away from losing your career. But the fun thing is that you can just get your one good movie away from really fixing your career.
That's right.
So it's the same thing. So you can really change your life very quickly by making just a few good decisions. And even if you make a few bad ones and you're in a dark place, you can still reroute the boat as often as you like, as long as there's vinegar in the veins and your mind is focused and you apply what needs to be done. You can make this happen. No matter what economic situation you're in, you can change your life today. Today is the first day of the rest of your life. As corny as that sounds, it's 100% true. Now is all we have. The past is the past. We can't change it. The future is unwritten. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. The future is unwritten. Remember that. And the past is done. So what are we going to do today? The present. That's why it's the present. It's a gift. What gifts are we going to implement today in order to propel our future to have a better future? Remember that. The future isn't unwritten. You write it. You make those decisions. Everything you do from this point forward is your decision. Make the best out of it. I think on that note, we can end it.
Yep.
So I think you had a great exercise, which is try to catch yourself blaming others as soon as you do. I recommend you take an elastic band, put it around your wrist or a hair tie, and snap yourself whenever you catch yourself doing it. So have some sort of pain trigger. So whenever you start realizing that you're blaming someone else, even if it's someone that did something wrong to you, instead of complaining about it, do something about it. Right? And then ask, what decision can I make that's going to better my future? And it's not by complaining about it, because negativity brings in more negativity. It's garbage in, garbage out. And we just want to get rid of that garbage.
Yeah. And then find people that can keep you accountable in that as well. That's the fun part. Like we do it, if one, because we're not all flawless, right? Like this, we still have negative thoughts here and there. And sometimes something comes out and say, hey, somebody else will catch you, right? And that's sort of the fun part of having the right people around you.
It's great. So thanks for listening. Hope you learned a little bit. Hope we inspired you just a teeny little bit. And take some action today. And I look forward, and so should you, to the rest of your life, because it's going to be beautiful.
If you like this episode of Big Fat Real Estate Checks, then show some love by leaving a comment and a good rating. Also, as a thank you for tuning in today, we've got a special free gift. The journey to passive cash flow for a life starts by finding deals, and it's easier than you think. Simply go to getdealsbytuesday.com, enter your email address, and we'll send you a free quick start course called Deals by Tuesday. Even if it's 11 p.m. Monday night, this course will show you how to find discounted real estate deals by Tuesday. It's that fast and simple. Go to getdealsbytuesday.com and start your journey toward life-changing cash flow today. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode.